So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about episode 5 and 6 of the McMahon documentary. The reason why is because I don't think there was a whole lot in 5 that was very juicy. 6 gets a little bit juicier. And then I'm also going to do an overall review of it. So start off right off the bat. Episode 5 is about the family and how he utilizes the family in different storylines. Trish Stratus was his mistress. Really what they're trying to do is they're trying to show that Vince McMahon is going to utilize women so that he can fool around with them and do that on screen so that he can say, hey, it's all part of the McMahon character. They bring up the subject of, during a segment, he has Trish Stratus bark like a dog and take off her clothes and all this kind of stuff. And Trish Stratus kind of plays it up as, that's what we wanted you to do. We wanted you to feel that anger and that kind of stuff. A lot of people talking about, in previous settings, probably wasn't the best thing in the world, but at the time it seemed like it was all right. But hindsight's always 2020. I get that, but Trish Stratus brought up that everybody still brings it up to this day during like autograph signings and that kind of things. But to me, it's like, yeah, they bring it up because of not good intentions, I guess. That's just my thought. Should it have happened? Looking at it as a teenager, I wasn't thinking of all the innuendos. Probably would have been more uncomfortable if I would have realized what was going on. But Trish Stratus was extremely hot, so I was one of those that participated and was excited about it. But at the other end of it, now being an adult, should they have done it? No. But I think we all make those type of choices too. So it also helped further her career. It did put her on the map. So it's kind of one of those things. What do you think about it type thing? She seems to think nothing bad about it. So, and since she was one of the people that was the biggest part of that segment, then I guess, if she's okay with it, then other people should be okay with it. Now, they getting as much heat as they possibly can just so that they can have when their command turn on them at WrestleMania 17. The biggest thing about that is, if you think about WrestleMania 17, most people don't even realize that actually was part of the pay-per-view. What they remember is Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon aligning after years and years of fighting each other to beat The Rock. So, and if they're talking about that match in particular, you're thinking about the coast to coast where Shane McMahon actually jumped from one turnbuckle to the other and landed on Vince McMahon with the steel cage or with the steel trash can. I think that was the first time he'd done that. So, did it actually help the storyline? Probably not. I guess it helped further it, but the payoff was kind of like meh. So all of that for meh. Talk about Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon being very, very tough to work with each other. There's actually a segment where Paul Heyman gives a little story about how they were at this taping. Shane McMahon had proposed something. Vince had said no. Shane pushed him a little bit further. Vince basically gave him a steak knife and said, you're going to have to drive a stake through my heart in order to end it because you're not getting it while I'm still alive and all that. Would Shane and Vince McMahon say that that's probably true? Probably. It just kind of goes to that grandiose, over the top that Vince McMahon, I guess, can always be. Now, does Shane McMahon hit the ball out of the park every single time he comes up with a creative idea? No. And I'm going to look at Boogeyman. I hated that character, and apparently that's one of those that Shane McMahon really pushed. So, if that goes to tell you, and I think they also did Monday Night After Dark was his idea, and you saw how well that went. So, but then again, McMahon isn't going to hit a home run every time. Nobody is. You're going to make some misses. So they talk about a little bit how Shane McMahon wanted to buy UFC when it was originally struggling before the TKO, or what ended up being TKO, ended up buying it, I believe. So could he have known that it was going to be as big as it was? There was a reason why it was in trouble anyway. And I guess from his standpoint, or from Vince McMahon's kind of standpoint, is it was already struggling because it had a lot of heat on it, because people were mimicking that. And if you're WWE, you already have people who are suing because, hey, my son did a body slam or something of that nature. Do you want something that's, cage fighting to go along with it? So, hindsight's 2020. Did he know that it was going to be as successful as it is today? No. And would have been successful today because we look at the XFL, which they bring up, and had all the makings to be really, really good. But I think they tried to put too much of that WWE spin on it. And if they would have done that with the UFC, would it have tanked just like the XFL did? You know, that type of thing. So the other thing is going to be how Shane McMahon and Vince basically had to split up before he came back. Now, one of the things I believe is whenever he left, he went over to China and actually worked for like what they would consider like a Netflix over there and was very, very successful at it. So Shane McMahon has business acumen. He does know how to run a business and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, but he'll never be Vince. And Vince at that time would never give it up. And now that Vince doesn't have any control over it, I don't see Shane McMahon ever coming back and being as big of a part as he was with WWE. Not while, Triple H is at the helm. I'm not saying that there's friction there. I'm not trying to get into that gossip, but Triple H is doing really, really well. So why would you want to change that? It doesn't make any sense to. Which brings up, hey, does Vince McMahon ever punish people for telling him no? And they're like, well, not directly, but yeah, he does. Everybody knows that. That's not a, you don't have to like hide it and try to like say, oh, no, that's not true. So that was the gist of episode 5. Not a whole lot there. They weren't talking about it. I'm surprised that they didn't talk about the lady that Vince McMahon supposedly attacked during a tanning salon down in Florida, but that was supposedly settled out of court. They didn't even make mention of it that I heard of and then I saw. So now we're going to number 6 episode. Now everybody's expecting number 6 to be dominated by what has happened recently. And unfortunately, I think that's the last like 20 minutes of the whole episode. In a nutshell, what they talk about is some of the other claims that have happened, kind of rehashing it, seeing what has transpired. Oh, one of the things I forgot to talk about in episode 6 was about how Sable sued him for doing stuff that she didn't want to do. Vince McMahon seemed to have forgotten that they had to pay her hundreds of millions of dollars, but she did come back. And there was a whole segment about how he brings people back whenever as he thinks is what's best for business. Now, episode 6, the big thing is going to be the big controversy that got him to leave. Now, why did he get to leave? So this lady apparently was originally part of an okay sexual relationship with Vince McMahon. It turns sideways. There's hush money that's been put together. Supposedly, he was supposed to pay out so much money to keep her quiet. They failed to pay that. And so now we're in the spot that we're in now where all this information comes out. So, and it's pretty bad. It names Vince McMahon, the WWE, and also John Laurinaitis. And then there's a wrestler that they don't quite talk about, but they said it hints at Brock Lesnar. Now, supposedly, and I don't know how true this is, supposedly that was part of his bargaining chip, was Vince McMahon's side piece was supposed to be a part of that. Don't know what it is. Don't know. That's up to you. If you want to, you can look on the internet. I'm sure you'd be able to find it. But I guess takes that I took from it was Bruce Pritchard saying that if he would have known what this show would have been about, he never would have done it because it's nothing but a hit piece. It's a hit piece on Vince McMahon. His reasoning is that Vince McMahon's a good man. Yes, he's done some bad things, but what about the time when his wife had cancer and was going to have a little bit of time to live? Vince McMahon helped pay for all of the treatments and everything like that. Like, we didn't talk about that, so they did, but it's not really a hit piece. I don't see anything that's really negative outside of the stuff that Vince McMahon did. Like, Vince McMahon was the one who did these things. Vince McMahon is the one who has done this. So, and he's gone on record to say that he was involved in some of this stuff. Like, that there was a steroid trial. That there was deals that were made outside of WWE or outside of the courtrooms because he didn't want a jury of his peers to be able to dig in any deeper into his stuff. So, to say that was a hit piece, no. You have to take the bad with the good. Did Vince McMahon create a juggernaut for the pro wrestling world? Yes. Did he become a self-made billionaire? Yes. Did he do a lot of shady stuff? Yeah. So, I mean, do I think there was a hit piece? No. I think they were actually very, very kind to him and very, very gentle. There's a lot of other documentaries, like I've said before, Dark Side of the Ring are not so nice. But then again, it's also not, paid for by the WWE. There's no participation from the WWE. Some of the stuff that they talk about is the Snuka scandal, where, Jimmy Snuka's girlfriend dies mysteriously. He should be brought up on charges. Vince McMahon comes down there allegedly with a briefcase, leaves without said briefcase, and all the charges are dropped until just recently. So those are the things that other people have talked about. Did they even hint at that? They may have said it in passing, but they didn't dive very deep into it. I mean, they could have made this documentary a lot worse, especially after they got the go ahead and that Vince McMahon had nothing that he could do to stop it. Even with the updated scandal stuff, they could have gone way deep into that, but they didn't. And I'm kind of glad they didn't, just for the simple fact that there's a lot of people that would have that would have gotten the ricochet from that would have had to, do damage control that shouldn't have to, like your Triple H's, like your Stephanie McMahon's, because then, it makes it to where they don't have to apologize for what Vince did. I mean, they still are, but they shouldn't have to. That was on them. Now, if they knew about it and that kind of stuff, that's completely different. So, 6, which is the culmination of what's been happening recently with that kind of the scandal and everything. Where do we go from here? Well, at this point, he was retired after the scandal originally broke, forced his way back into the ownership, sold the company. Once he sold the company, I guess it was understood. It was supposed to be understood that he would have controlling shares of the WWE portion, and he didn't. And then the scandal broke again, and this time he couldn't bully his way back onto the board again. Not going to happen. They said, hey, basically, Vince McMahon's going to release himself, supposedly as of his own volition, but then it's time to go. So Vince hasn't been back. They've done everything basically to scrub his name from it, and unfortunately, Brock Lesnar is the same way. So Brock Lesnar got taken off all the promotional stuff. Hasn't been heard of, hasn't been talked about, or anything like that either. So I mean, I don't know how much truth there is to that fire. Obviously, we still have more information to come from that, because not only is it just that, but apparently the federal government's getting involved. So, it is what it is. So, overall, do I think it's entertaining? Yes. Is it something that I'm going to watch over and over again? Probably not. A lot of it was stuff that I've already seen, I've already heard, and stuff. I would like to see them do a director's cut where they have a ton of Vince McMahon's own words, because I mean, some of the stuff that he would say during the interview that they kept in was kind of batshit crazy if you think about it. It was entertaining. I want to hear what he had to say. There's got to be a lot more crazy McMahonisms that are in there. So, was it good to watch? Yeah. If you're a wrestling fan, it's good. It's not, once again, not something you're going to watch every year or anything like that, but it was entertaining. And I think that it's going to get more eyeballs as more of that trial stuff comes up, because people are going to want to know, okay, what's some of the back history to it. So that's my take on it. What did you think of the show? Have you watched it? Did you watch any of these other reviews? What did you think of it? Please like, comment, subscribe, leave a message in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. For those of you who are commenting and liking and subscribing, absolutely love it. Pass this along. But until next time, have a great day. Be nice to yourself. Be nice to others. Enjoy life. We're only here once. Have a good time with it. Bye bye.